The sky above Earth was clear, but far beyond what the human eye could see. Something strange was happening in deep space, in a quiet desert in Nevada. There was a secret listening post built under the rocks, away from cities and noise, inside. This hidden base, a group of scientists and military officers worked every day, listening to sounds and signals from space. They were not looking for aliens, not really. They were just trying to make sure nothing dangerous was coming toward Earth. Late one night, technician Daniel Brooks sat alone in the control room, sipping cold coffee. The room was filled with blinking lights and soft humming noises from computers. Everything had been normal for weeks then. Suddenly, a new signal came through the system. It was strange, long, and filled with patterns no one had seen before. Daniel's eyes widened as he stared at the screen. The signal wasn't from Earth. And it wasn't just space noise either. He called for the others. Soon the room was full of people, scientists, engineers, and 2 military officers. They all looked at the signal, listened to the strange sounds, and watched the repeating patterns. Dr. Laura Bennett, a language expert, studied it closely. After an hour, she looked up and said, "I think this is a call for help." The message repeated over and over. The signal used old forms of communication basic enough that any smart species could understand. Someone far away was desperate, and they had sent out this signal hoping someone would hear it. The team quickly sent the information to Earth's Allied Space Command, a powerful group that handled space threats and emergencies within minutes. Top officers and space experts were meeting in a virtual room. They read the signal report, watched the recorded patterns, and listened to Dr. Bennett's translation. Some wanted to wait and gather more information. Others said this might be the first real contact with aliens, but one voice stood out: General Victor Hawley, a veteran with a sharp mind and a loud voice. He leaned forward and said, "If someone out there needs help and we can help them, we should go." After a short silence, the others agreed. Earth would respond. In the next few hours, special orders were sent to every spaceport and military base in orbit. Ships that had been on standby for months were activated. Crews were called back from leave, and supplies were loaded quickly. Admiral Cole Mercer, leader of the 7th Expeditionary Fleet, received his orders while walking through the hangar of his flagship, the Liberty's Flame, a massive ship built for battle. It carried thousands of soldiers, fighter crafts, and heavy weapons. Mercer read the orders and nodded slowly. "Get the fleet ready," he said to his second-in-command, Commander Mia Carter. Commander Carter was already moving, contacting ship captains, organizing fuel and food supplies, and setting up communication links. She worked fast and smart. Just like always, in orbit above Earth, more ships began to join the Liberty's Flame. The Horizon's Reach, a huge carrier with long-range fighters, lined up beside the fleet. The Iron Wake, a strong and slow-moving cruiser with heavy armor, floated nearby, the Lancer's Pride. Smaller and fast, zipped around them like a guard dog. The fleet looked beautiful against the blackness of space. Lights blinking, engines glowing. They were not built to explore or make friends. These ships were made for protection, for fighting, if needed. Meanwhile, back in the Nevada listening post, Daniel Brooks watched the signal repeat again. His mind was racing. He had seen movies about aliens, read books about space travel, but this was real. He wondered what kind of creatures had sent the message. Were they small or tall, peaceful, or dangerous? Did they even speak with mouths? The truth was, no one knew. The only thing that mattered now was that someone had asked for help. And Earth had answered as the fleet prepared to jump into deep space. Final checks were done. Weapon systems were tested. Shields were activated. Engines were warmed up. On the bridge of the Liberty's Flame, Admiral Mercer stood in front of a large screen showing the destination point. It was a faraway system called Villari Prime, a place no human had visited or even heard of before yesterday. He turned to Carter and said, "Do we know what we're walking into?" She replied, "No, sir, but we'll be ready for anything." He smiled slightly. "Let's go show the stars what humans can do." The countdown began. 10 seconds to jump. 9, 8, 7. The engines rumbled quietly, then loudly, 3, 2, 1. Ships vanished into the blackness of space, leaving only fading trails of blue light behind. Humanity was on its way, and someone, somewhere was waiting. The silence of deep space was broken by the sudden arrival of Earth's fleet. But long before they reached their destination, the ships had to be prepared, built for speed, strength, and survival. The Liberty's flame floated in orbit, its silver hull reflecting the sun. Inside the ship, people moved quickly through the halls, preparing for the unknown. Admiral Cole Mercer walked through the main command corridor, speaking with officers, checking systems, and asking sharp questions. Below deck, mechanics and engineers worked without rest. They loaded missiles, checked fuel cells, and adjusted thrusters. Every person knew this mission was different. They weren't just flying into space for training or patrol. This time, someone out there needed help. Commander Mia Carter stood in the operations center, her eyes focused on a large screen showing the entire fleet. She was making final checks before launch. Her voice echoed across the room. "All units report readiness." Slowly, lights on the board turned green. One by one, the fleet came together. The Horizon's Reach was the largest carrier, holding long-range bombers and hundreds of fighter crafts. Its main hangar buzzed with energy. Pilots suited up. Mechanics rolled fuel lines, and technicians adjusted targeting systems. Next was the Ironwake, a heavy cruiser with armor so thick it looked like a floating fortress. Its twin cannons could fire magnetic rounds powerful enough to crack asteroids. On board, Captain Dana Brooks checked her fire teams, reminding them, "This isn't a drill. This is real." The Lancer's Pride was a sleek and fast escort ship, equipped with tracking systems and pulse weapons. Its captain, Leo Martin, was a young but sharp tactician who loved space maneuvers and speed tests. He smiled as he saw his engines glowing bright. "We're gonna dance out there," he said to his crew. Farther behind, smaller support ships joined the formation. Medical vessels, supply haulers, and scout drones formed a second layer. They were not built for battle, but they were vital to the mission. Back on Earth, families watched the news and saw the giant ships moving above the planet. Some were afraid, others proud. For many, this was the first time they saw humanity not running from space, but answering a call inside the Liberty's flame. Admiral Mercer called for a full officer briefing. The command room filled with captains and senior crew from each ship. Holograms lit up the center of the room, showing the Velari system, still mostly a mystery. "We don't know who sent that message," Mercer began, his voice calm but firm. "We don't know if it's a trap or if it's real. But what we do know is someone out there is asking for help. And we're the ones who heard it." Carter stepped forward, pointing at the hologram. "Our path takes us through neutral space. We expect no resistance until we reach Velari Prime. That's where things might change." "What kind of resistance?" asked Captain Brooks of the Ironwake. "Unknown," Carter said. "The message mentioned an attack. Maybe a war, maybe worse. We prepare for everything." Captain Martin leaned forward, arms crossed. "Do we have permission to engage if threatened?" Mercer nodded. "If they shoot first, we end it fast." With that, the briefing ended. Everyone returned to their ships, ready to move. Meanwhile, in the lower deck of the Liberty's Flame, a young soldier named Kyle Rivers checked his armor. He was new, just a year out of training. His roommate, Elias Ward, tossed him a protein bar. "Better eat, man. This could be a long ride." Kyle nodded. "You think it's aliens?" "Everything's aliens when you're this far out," Elias laughed. "Let's just hope they like us." On the bridge, the countdown began. The ships powered up their warp drives, humming with energy. This would not be a quick trip. It would take them through jumps and tunnels of folded space. They would be unreachable until they arrived. Mercer looked out at the stars one last time. "Fleet, engage," he said, in a flash of light. The ships disappeared from Earth's orbit, diving into the unknown. Days passed inside the compressed corridors of space. Training continued, weapons were tested, and officers planned different scenarios. Every moment was used. In her private cabin, Commander Carter studied possible landing zones on Valari Prime. The surface maps were unclear, old, and incomplete, but some details stood out: mountain ridges, deep oceans, and what looked like large cities. In another part of the ship, Captain Brooks ran combat drills with her gun crews, the Iron Wakes. Cannons fired test shots into open space, bursts of plasma lighting the darkness. Captain Martin ran practice chases in simulators, testing escape routes and close combat flybys. His crew loved the action, joking about dodging alien missiles. All of them were nervous, but also curious. They had been trained for war, but deep inside, many of them hoped they were just going to help someone, not fight. After 5 days in warp, the fleet slowed down near the edge of the Valari system. The stars outside looked unfamiliar, brighter, warmer. In front of them was a small yellow sun and one blue planet close to it. They had arrived. Signals started coming in, frantic, broken, full of panic. Admiral Mercer turned to Carter, who was already reading the data. Her face turned serious. "Sir, Valari Prime is under attack." Mercer stood tall, looking out at the growing light of the distant planet. "Then we don't wait," he said. "We go in now." And Earth's fleet moved forward, engines burning bright, ready to face whatever waited below. The Valari sky was burning. Bright flashes lit up the atmosphere as explosions rocked the surface. Fires stretched across green valleys and silver cities. In orbit, dark shapes moved fast, alien warships firing energy bolts and dropping troops by the hundreds. And then, without warning, the sky changed. From the shadows of deep space, Earth's fleet emerged like a wall of light and steel. Ships blinked into position, forming rows and lines that cut through the void like a blade. At the front floated the Liberty's flame, engines hot, shields active, guns tracking. Valari satellites picked up the arrival instantly. Inside their main control tower, high above the capital city of Ankai, panic turned to confusion. Counselor Sonari stood frozen, his three-fingered hands shaking as he stared at the display. "What ... What is this?" he whispered. Beside him, a technician stammered. "New ship, sir, unknown design. They match none of the Dravari fleet." Another voice called out, "They are responding to our old emergency code, the one meant for the Kaleri Alliance, Sonari's." Eyes widened. "That signal was ancient. We sent it out as a final cry. They should not have come. Not after all this time." But the humans had come, inside the Liberty's flame. Admiral Mercer stood tall at the center of the bridge, watching the alien world spin slowly below. "What are we looking at?" he asked. Carter answered without turning her head. "City-wide fires, heavy bombardment, orbital weapons in place. No formal defenses left, just survivors and the attackers." "The Dravari, sir. Heavy armored ships, fast and brutal. I count 11. Major vessels in orbit and a ground force already deployed." Mercer nodded. "Any communication from the Valari?" "Only static and scattered signals, mostly civilian channels. They didn't expect help." For a moment, the Admiral said nothing. Then he stepped forward and gave the order. "Send a message to the Valari leadership. Tell them, this is the human fleet from Earth. You called for help, and we heard you. Requesting permission to engage your enemy." The message was simple, clear, and full of power. On the ground, Counselor Sonari watched the human message appear on their interface, translated quickly by AI. He leaned forward and whispered, "Permission." Granted. Above the planet, the human fleet came to life. Fighter crafts launched from the horizon's reach like sparks from a flame. Hundreds of ships flew in formation, breaking into attack groups. Lancer's Pride darted forward, flanking two Dravari ships caught off guard. The Iron Wake opened fire with heavy plasma cannons, its blast shaking space itself. The Liberty's flame led the strike, its railguns launching high-speed slugs that cracked through the Dravari shields. Like glass down below, the planet trembled in one of the burning cities. Velari civilians watched the sky. Some thought they were seeing the end. Others saw hope for the first time in days. From the clouds, human drop pods screamed through the air, steel tubes bursting into flames as they fell. Inside them were armored soldiers from Earth, ready for war. On the ground, Captain Alex Turner adjusted his helmet as his pod shook violently. His squad sat around him, silent, focused. "Brace," he called, just before impact. The pod slammed into the dirt and burst open. Turner and his team jumped out, weapons ready. Bullets and lasers filled the air, but they moved fast, pushing toward a Velari building full of trapped civilians. "We're here to help," Turner shouted, unsure if they could understand him. But the message was clear enough. His translator kicked in, repeating his words in Velari language. The alien children stared with wide silver eyes. Some cried. Others ran into the arms of the giant humans in armor. Turner's squad cleared the way, holding back Dravari drones that poured into the street. In orbit, the battle was getting heavier. The Horizon's Reach lost a port-side engine, but kept fighting, launching wave after wave of bombers. One of the escort ships, the Windcaster, took a direct hit and was forced to retreat. But the rest held strong. Commander Carter coordinated strikes from the Liberty's flame, her voice calm but sharp. "Target those engines. We cut their speed. We control the fight." On her screen, enemy ships exploded one by one. "Captain Martin, close those flanks. Keep the Lancer's Pride moving." "Copy that, Commander," Martin replied, weaving his ship between two Dravari warships and unloading a volley of torpedoes. The Dravari were fast, but they weren't prepared. For humans, they didn't expect such precision. They didn't expect such rage. And they certainly didn't expect humanity to answer a message never meant for them. As the last of the orbital guns were destroyed, the Velari sent another message. "We do not know who you are," Counselor Sinari said, "but today you saved our people." Back on the bridge, Admiral Mercer listened to the message with a thoughtful expression. "We're not here for thanks," he said. "We're here because we heard someone crying out in the dark." He turned back to the stars. "And Earth doesn't ignore a cry for help." The first wave of battle was only the beginning, as Earth's fleet pushed deeper into Velari space. The Dravari began to regroup. They had not expected resistance, and certainly not from a species they had never seen before. But now they were angry, and they were ready to strike back. In orbit, the Liberty's flame drifted above the atmosphere, lights flashing across its hull. Admiral Mercer stood near the command screen, watching red blips grow larger. "They're forming up," said Commander Carter, eyes scanning the data feed. 6 heavy cruisers and 2 carriers heading toward us, flanked by smaller interceptors. "Status of our line?" Mercer asked. "Horizon's Reach is holding position. Ironwake is moving to defend the West Arc. Lancer's Pride is fast enough to draw fire and dodge. All wings are armed and waiting." Mercer gave a sharp nod. "Let's give them a fight, they'll remember." The stars lit up as both sides launched their next assault. Dravari fighters darted through space like dark knives, their engines trailing green flame. They fired in tight formations, trying to break holes in Earth's front line. But the humans responded with precision. From the Horizon's Reach, squadrons of sleek fighter jets launched in waves, flying in complex patterns. Their pilots communicated in fast, calm voices, missiles locking onto targets. Plasma bursts lit up the sky as dozens of Dravari ships exploded. Captain Leo Martin steered Lancer's Pride in wide arcs, weaving through enemy fire. His ship fired rapid pulse cannons, striking at weak points in the Dravari formation. "They're trying to flank us," he said into the comms. "Then don't let them," replied Carter. Martin grinned and dove through the center of an enemy group, dropping mines that exploded behind him. Farther back, the Ironwake took heavy fire, but its armor held strong. Captain Dana Brooks ordered a full-power barrage. Her ship's twin cannons sent glowing shells through space, slamming into a Dravari carrier. The enemy ship cracked in two, flaming debris spinning out into the void on the surface of Velari Prime. Captain Turner's squad pushed deeper into the ruined city. Their boots crushed glass and rubble as they moved from street to street, covering Velari refugees as they fled to safety. "Clear that alley," Turner shouted. Sergeant Ward fired his rifle, dropping 2 enemy drones. "We've got movement near the east wall." Turner checked his scanner, then pointed. "Let's move. We can't let them cut off the evacuation route." The squad moved fast, trained to work. In silence, covering each other's backs. Above them, human gunships flew low, firing at enemy armor units pushing toward the city center. Inside the command center of the Liberty's Flame, Carter called for a new plan. "Sir, I want to split our strike groups," she said. "Use Phantom Echo to create a false signal trail. Lead them away from the main fleet." Mercer raised an eyebrow. "Risky, yes, but if it works, we hit them from behind while they chase shadows." Mercer thought for a moment, then gave the order. "Do it." The Phantom Echo, a small stealth corvette, activated its cloaking drive and darted off toward a nearby moon, sending out fake signals as it moved. The Dravari bit the bait. 2 cruisers and half a squadron of fighters peeled off to follow. With their flank exposed, Earth's ships moved in. The Liberty's Flame powered up its railguns again, sending 3 hyperspeed rounds into a Dravari heavy cruiser. The explosion was bright and final. "That's a kill," Carter confirmed, back. On the ground, Turner's squad reached a ruined transport hub. They found more Velari trapped inside, scared and injured. Turner lowered his weapon and removed his helmet. "We're here to help," he said slowly, then repeated it in their language. A Velari elder stepped forward, weak and trembling. "You are not the ones we called." "No," Turner said, helping him up, "but we came anyway." Explosions rocked the street behind them as a Dravari tank moved into view. "Cover!" Turner shouted, diving behind a wall. His squad launched a counterattack, one of them tossing a magnetic grenade onto the tank's treads. It detonated, stopping the machine cold. "We need air support now." Turner set into his come within seconds. A gunship responded, flying in low and unleashing a barrage of missiles that destroyed the tank completely. The elder looked at Turner, eyes wide. "You are not like the others who came before." Turner shook his head. "No, we're not." In space, the last Dravari cruiser tried to retreat. Engines failing, it didn't make it. From the Iron Wake, Captain Brooks gave the order. "Fire!" The ship's cannons lit up again, and the final enemy vessel exploded. Silence returned to Velari. "Space," Admiral Mercer leaned forward, eyes locked on the empty radar. "Status?" he asked. Carter scanned the system. "Orbital space is clear. Ground forces are still mopping up. But the tide has turned." Mercer let out a breath. "Good. Make sure we stay ready. This isn't over yet." But it was a start. And for the first time in days, the people of Velari Prime looked up at the sky and felt something they thought they had lost. Hope. Above Velari Prime, space was still thick with smoke and drifting debris. The wreckage of Dravari cruisers floated like broken bones across the orbit path. Among them, Earth's fleet moved with quiet purpose, lights scanning the shadows for more threats. But this fight was not over. Inside the Liberty's Flame, Commander Mia Carter stood beside a glowing tactical map. Her fingers traced flight paths and gravity wells. Her eyes didn't blink. "They're regrouping behind that moon," she said, pointing to a red cluster. 2 destroyers and a command ship. "They're hiding and waiting for us to chase them blindly." Admiral Mercer leaned in, studying the pattern. "What do you have in mind?" Carter tapped the corner of the map, where a stealth corvette waited in silence. "We use the Phantom Echo to slip behind them and bait them into the arc of our main guns. We fold around the gravity well and hit them before they can run." Mercer nodded. "Do it, on the far side of the moon." The Phantom Echo activated its silent drive, moving through the shadows without making a sound. It pinged false location data and scattered decoy signals into space. The Dravari command ship picked it up. Target acquired. Came a harsh voice inside the enemy bridge. Prepare pursuit. The destroyers powered up, engines glowing. The trap was set. Meanwhile, on the surface, Captain Alex Turner and his team had taken control of an old Velari outpost on a hill above the burning city. From here, they could see the smoke trails of battle stretching across the skyline. "Reinforcements are on the way," said Sergeant Ward, eyes on his visor. "Good," Turner replied. "We'll hold this position until the last evac ship lifts off." Suddenly, a group of Dravari infantry crept out from ruined buildings below. They moved in perfect sync, weapons raised. Turner spotted them just in time. Enemies North Ridge. He shouted, ducking behind a broken wall. Gunfire exploded around them. Earth soldiers fired back in short, clean bursts. The Velari inside the bunker stayed low, shielding their children. "Elias, get that rail launcher online." Turner barked, "Already on it." Elias replied, sliding the long weapon onto the ledge. He fired, and the round exploded in the center of the enemy squad, scattering them like dust. Back in orbit, the Dravari ships had taken the bait. They surged forward, chasing the Phantom Echo through the curve of the moon's pull. As they rounded the arc, Earth's main fleet came into view. Mercer stood ready. "All units fire." In an instant, the Liberty's flame unleashed a full broadside from its magnetic railguns. The horizon's reach followed with a spread of guided torpedoes. Lancer's Pride flew straight through the chaos, delivering pulse strikes to exposed engines. The Dravari destroyers didn't stand a chance. One exploded in a burst of orange flame. The other spiraled off course, venting gas and debris. The command ship tried to run, but Iron Wake had it locked. "Target engines," said Captain Brooks, her voice like stone. 3 shots rang out. The enemy ship slowed, then drifted dead in space. "Back on Velari Prime, Captain." Turner's squad held the hill. The last evac ship lifted off from the landing pad behind them, carrying dozens of Velari civilians. "We're clear," shouted Sergeant Ward, grinning beneath his helmet. Turner looked up at the rising ship and smiled. "Now we finish this." They pushed forward, clearing the last pockets of resistance. The city was broken, but it wasn't lost. From the top of the hill, a Velari youth stood beside Turner, eyes wide. "You came when no one else did," the child said in broken translation. Turner put a hand on their shoulder. "We came because someone asked." Above them, the sky was starting to clear. Inside the Liberty's flame, the bridge was calm now, Commander Carter reported. "Enemy formation broken. Remaining ships are fleeing to deep space." Admiral Mercer exhaled slowly. "And our losses?" 3 damaged ships, minor injuries across units, but we held the line." Mercer looked at the stars for a long time, then spoke quietly. "Make sure we get the wounded home, and send a message to the Velari Council. Tell them the skies are theirs again." Across the Velari network, the message echoed. The invaders were gone. The humans had come, and the tide had turned. High above the surface of Velari Prime, the stars no longer flickered with fire. The warships had stopped firing. The enemy had fled, and a strange calm settled over the shattered orbit. From the bridge of the Liberty's flame, Admiral Mercer watched the drifting remains of the final Dravari cruiser. "Status?" he asked quietly. Commander Carter replied. "All enemy vessels confirmed destroyed or in retreat. No new contacts. Civilian networks are broadcasting again." Mercer nodded. "Then it's time to talk." A signal was sent to the Velari capital, this time not as a warning or a demand, but as a request for peace. Back on the planet, the Velari Council gathered in their high tower. The sky outside still streaked with the black smoke of war. Their city was damaged, their people wounded, but hope had returned. Councillor Sonari stood before the central console as the hologram shimmered to life, revealing Admiral Mercer and Commander Carter. The Velari were tall, slender beings with luminous skin and wide eyes that shimmered in different colors. Sonari looked weary but calm. "We did not expect an answer," he said softly. "Certainly not. From your kind, you are not the ones the signal was intended for." "We understand," Mercer said. "Your signal was ancient, but we heard it, and we came." Sonari tilted his head. "Why? Why would your people risk so much for strangers?" Carter leaned forward slightly, her voice steady. "Because someone asked for help. That's reason enough for us." There was silence. Then Sonari said, "We owe you more than words. Your fleet saved our world. Your soldiers protected our children. You acted with honor." Mercer looked thoughtful. "We're not here for rewards or power, but cooperation, friendship. Those are worth discussing." The Valari exchanged glances. "We were once part of a galactic union," said Sonari. "A peaceful alliance that fell apart long ago. We tried to call them back, but they never returned. Now we're here," Carter said. Sonari stepped back and motioned to his council members. "Then perhaps it is time to build something new." A diplomatic channel was opened immediately between Earth and Valari Prime. Messages flowed between scientists, leaders, and translators. Maps were shared, data exchanged. Cultural recordings studied. Across the Valari cities, humans were seen not just as warriors but as protectors. Soldiers helped rebuild hospitals, cleared rubble, and repaired generators. On every street, Valari children waved at the humans in uniform. Captain Turner walked through a healing district where Valari engineers were restoring power. A group of children ran up to him, offering a strange glowing fruit. "For you," one of them said shyly. Turner took it with a smile. "Thanks. You all stay safe, all right?" Above, the Liberty's flame served as a hub for diplomatic talks. The ship's large briefing hall was converted into a meeting chamber. Flags of Earth and Valari Prime hung side by side. During one of the early sessions, Sonari turned to Carter and asked, "Do all humans respond to distress calls with such force?" Carter chuckled. "Not always, but when we do, we make sure we don't arrive empty-handed." Sonari looked around the room, his voice thoughtful. "You answered a forgotten message, brought down warships with precision, and showed mercy without expectation. That is not how the galaxy remembers new species." "Then maybe the galaxy needs a reminder," Mercer said quietly. Outside the hall, word spread quickly to other systems. The Valari shared what happened, how a forgotten signal had reached a blue planet at the edge of a quiet arm of the galaxy, and how that planet had sent warriors, medics, and protectors across the stars. On distant outposts and hidden colonies, the name of Earth began to carry weight. Humanity, once thought isolated and primitive, was now something else, an ally worth having, and a threat worth respecting. In the following days, the Valari government renamed a central plaza in their capital. It had been the site of a major evacuation and now stood as a symbol of survival. They called it Nova Haven. At the dedication ceremony, Admiral Mercer stood beside Counselor Sonari and placed a single human flag at the edge of the plaza. "This place belongs to the Valari," he said. "But let it also be a mark that when you called, we answered." Cheers rose from the crowd, both Valari and human. Later that night, back on the Liberty's flame, Mercer and Carter stood on the observation deck, looking out over the peaceful planet below. "Do you think this will last?" Carter asked. "No idea," Mercer replied, "but it's a start. We didn't come here to conquer or control. We came because someone needed us." He paused, watching the stars beyond the planet. "And now the stars know who we are," Carter smiled. "That's one way to make an introduction." Mercer nodded. "Let's just hope the next one doesn't need saving." Below them, Valari Prime slept in peace for the first time in weeks, and humanity stood guard, a new name among the stars. The calm didn't last. Just when the people of Valari Prime began to believe the worst was over, the sky lit up once more, not with hope, but with something darker. Sensors on the Liberty's flame screamed warnings, lights blinking red across the command bridge. Commander Carter stood over the main console, her eyes locked on the massive object emerging from the shadow of a nearby asteroid field. "It's a dreadnought," she said quietly. Dravari's signature, unlike anything we've faced so far. Admiral Mercer stepped forward, studying the readout. The ship was enormous, 5 times the size of a heavy cruiser, bristling with weapons and shield layers so thick the scanners had trouble piercing them. "They've been hiding it," he muttered, waiting for the right moment, and now it was here. The dreadnought moved slowly into orbit, blocking out stars as it passed. Its hull was dark and plated in curved armor, shaped like the bones of some ancient beast. Dozens of gun ports slid open along its sides. Velari defense networks reactivated in panic, but they had little left to give. The small sack-like cannons fired, sparking harmlessly against the dreadnought's shields. "It's heading straight for the capital," Carter said. "They want to finish what they started." Mercer turned to the comms. "All units, battle stations, this is not a drill. In orbit." Earth's fleet regrouped fast, damaged ships patched there. Hulls, fighters scrambled, and turrets locked in. The Liberty's flame led the charge, followed by the Iron Wake, Lancer's Pride, and every available vessel. "That thing will tear us apart if we don't take out its command systems," Carter said. "But we'll never punch through those shields from the outside." Mercer gave a short nod. "Then we go inside." He tapped his cum. "Prepare a boarding team." We hit the core directly. Within minutes, a strike team was assembled. Elite Marines, demolition experts, and tech specialists. Captain Turner was called up from the surface, and he arrived in a shuttle still dusty from the battlefield. "You called for a hard job," Turner said, snapping a salute. "You're getting one," Mercer replied. "Your team boards the dreadnought, finds the core, and disables or destroys it. No backup, no retreat," Turner grinned. "Just how I like it." The boarding shuttle launched under heavy cover fire, zipping between blasts as Earth's ships kept the dreadnought busy. Plasma beams flew past the small craft, but it held its course. Approaching docking ring, the pilot called out. The shuttle latched onto a weak point near the rear engine ducts. A cutting tool spun to life, carving through the hull. Then the Marines moved in. Inside, the dreadnought was a maze of shadows and metal, red lights pulsing from the floor. The walls echoed with the sound of machinery and distant footfalls. "Stay close," Turner whispered, his rifle up. "Check corners, mark routes." The team pushed forward, clearing hallways and sealing doors behind them. They encountered pockets of resistance, Dravari warriors wearing thick armor and wielding pulse axes, but they moved fast, used grenades, and pressed through. Back in orbit, the fleet continued its assault, trying to weaken the dreadnoughts. "Outer defenses, their front guns are powering up," Carter warned. "We've got minutes." "Focus fire on the forward cannons," Mercer ordered. By Turner time, the Liberty's flame took a hit, its shields flaring, sparks raining down inside the bridge. "Damage to Deck 7. Someone called out, "Hold the line." Mercer shouted. Inside the dreadnought, Turner's squad reached the central chamber, a massive engine room pulsing with energy. "There it is," Elias Ward said, pointing to a glowing orb suspended in the center. "Looks like a power core to me." Turner replied, "Get the charges ready," as the demo team set up explosives. Dravari reinforcements flooded the upper platforms. "They know we're here," Ward said, firing up at the catwalks. "Then let's make it count." Turner answered. The squad formed a circle around the core, holding the position while the timer on the detonators ticked down. 2 minutes, a tech shouted. Above them, the fleet kept hammering the dreadnought. One of Earth's frigates, the Morning Gale, took a direct hit and exploded, but its final barrage disabled the dreadnought's left turret. 1 minute to detonation. Turner said, "Fall back to the shuttle bay." They fought their way out, dodging collapsing supports and bursts of fire. "Go, go, go." Turner yelled. The shuttle lifted just as the charges blew from orbit. A bright light burst from the center of the dreadnought, followed by a chain reaction that tore through its hull. The ship cracked apart, flaming chunks spinning away like shattered glass. Cheers erupted across Earth's fleet. Admiral Mercer stared at the screen, then said, "Get me confirmation." Carter turned, eyes wide. Confirmed. The dreadnought is down, on the surface of Valari Prime. People watched the sky, and when the enemy ship exploded in orbit, they cheered, danced, and wept. Captain Turner stepped off the shuttle. Covered in smoke and dust. We gave them everything we had, he said. And it was enough, Mercer replied. The last Dravari threat was gone. And humanity had stood, fought, and won, together. News of the battle traveled faster than light. By the time Earth's fleet had begun repairs, stories were already spreading across the stars. From merchant channels to encrypted military frequencies, one phrase echoed again and again. Humanity came on Valari Prime. The war was over, but the work had only just begun. The cities needed rebuilding, the injured needed care, and the dead were mourned under banners of both Valari and Earth. In the center of Nova Haven, where the final battle had cast fire across the skyline, Valari children painted new murals on the walls, bright depictions of humans and Valari standing side by side. Captain Turner walked through the plaza, nodding. To Valari medics and engineers, his uniform was scorched, and a fresh bandage wrapped his arm. Still, he smiled as he passed by a food cart run by a young Valari vendor. "You fought for us," the vendor said, offering him a drink. "We fought with you," Turner replied, taking it gratefully above the planet. The Liberty's flame hovered like a silent guardian. Though scarred and bruised from battle, it remained. Proud and ready, inside the ship's briefing chamber, Admiral Mercer sat across from several new diplomats, Valari representatives, translators, and two curious envoys from a nearby star system who had arrived after hearing the news. "You understand," said one of the envoys, a small being with crystalline skin, "that no one expected your people to be." This, Mercer folded his hands. "We didn't either, until the signal came." Commander Carter stood nearby, showing a star map of the region. "We're not trying to start an empire. We just believe that when someone cries out, someone should answer." The envoy blinked slowly. "That is not a common view. Maybe it should be," Mercer said, "on Earth." The news arrived in a wave of surprise and celebration. Screens showed images of battered warships returning home, heroes receiving medals, and Valari civilians waving human flags. In schools, children talked about Captain Turner and the space Marines on message boards and video feeds. People debated what it all meant. Humanity no longer alone. At a press conference, the Earth Alliance Council addressed the world. "The call we answered was not meant for us," the chairwoman said, "but we responded not as conquerors, not as opportunists, but as protectors." In a quiet garden aboard the Horizon's Reach, Carter sat alone, watching the stars shift gently overhead. She thought about the fleet, the ground battles, and the strange, beautiful world they had helped save. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, may I join you?" It was Sonari. She gestured to the bench. Of course, he sat slowly, watching the stars as well. "We lost thousands," he said, "but we gained something too." Carter nodded. "So did we." He turned to her. "Do your people always answer calls like this?" She smiled. "We didn't. Not until now." He looked thoughtful. "Then perhaps your journey among the stars is just beginning, back on the Liberty's flame." Preparations were underway. Parts were being replaced, fuel replenished, systems recalibrated. The fleet had fought hard, but it wasn't finished. New assignments trickled in. Requests for Earth's help on frontier systems where pirates ruled and refugees waited. Other species wanted to talk, to trade, to meet the humans who brought war and peace in equal measure. Admiral Mercer stood in his quarters, looking over. A star map with a red marker placed on a distant sector. "Next destination?" asked Carter as she entered. "Maybe," Mercer said. "There's a colony out near the Ion Drift. No one's heard from them in months. And what if they didn't send a signal?" Mercer smiled. "Then maybe they need one." Outside the ship, drones painted a new insignia across the side of the Liberty's flame, a simple mark, Earth's symbol wrapped in a Valari star. It wasn't a claim, it was a memory. a reminder that across the vast emptiness of space, one voice had called out, and someone, against all odds, had answered. From that day on, humanity was no longer just a newcomer to the stars. They were a name, a fleet, a promise. The stars had taken notice, and they would not forget.